So now we come to glory. And glory is probably the most incredible feeling that I've ever had in my entire life. Or at least one of them, we could say. And of course, glory as we mean it here, glory as you discover as something intangible within yourself that brings a juicy quality to your consciousness, is very different to what it traditionally means. The word glory has a history to it. It has a past to it. So let's get into this. In the past, glory was related to guilt, shame, duty, and honor. And glory was most often associated with the actions that you take on the battlefield. It's the actions that you take as a warrior in war. And to be a warrior, to be in a war, to be in a battle, it's quite hard for us modern humans to appreciate. And I would pray that no one would ever actually have to discover this for themselves experientially. I pray that we can avoid war. We can avoid having to live through this archaic version of the word glory. But here from our comfortable armchairs, here from our comfortable discussion point of view, we can appreciate and understand that a warrior on the battlefield has his life at stake, right? He goes into war knowing that if he doesn't kill the person that he's attacking, they are going to kill him. It's your life that's on the line. And there's actually a very incredible power that comes from that. It's empowering. It's empowering. It brings a surge of testosterone to realize that you're going into battle with nothing to lose, with everything to lose in a sense. In a sense, nothing to lose but your own life. In a sense, nothing to hold you back. And of course, you see this in the movies all the time, right? You see the motivational speak right before they go into battle and how heartfelt it feels. And when they go in, you have that sense of, well, it's almost like a sense of honor. Now, to break down a few of the emotional components at play in this traditional version of the word glory. Guilt is you not living up to your ideal of yourself. It's you not living up to what it is that you think you should do. And on the battlefield, you know in a sense that you have no choice but to fight for the death. And of course, guilt appears in the emotional spectrum through all sorts of degrees, right? You know you should get that assignment in on time. In a sense, that's still somehow related to you know you should fight to the death no matter what. You shouldn't run away, right? Cowardice. Being a coward also comes in here. But guilt is really your own thing. It's your own ideal, which of course is related to your society and your conditioning, but it's a personal thing. Now, shame is the explicit community device at work. Shame is an emotion that's put onto you from your comrades, your fellow warriors, the people you work beside. your friends, family, and broader community. They are the people that recognize you haven't done what is culturally required of you. You haven't done what the group has expected of you. You haven't done what you needed to do by their point of view, by the collective point of view, and they put shame on you, and there's no way that you can get back your honor because you've failed by either not getting that assignment in on time or running away when the war was on, being a coward. Now, of course, in some institutions, getting your assignment in on time is not even necessarily part of the culture. It might be that you're in a circle of friends where that's not something that's frowned upon. That's a possible thing as well, right? There are friend circles within larger communities, but it's just an example. So duty is what you have to do to be in good standing of your community. I do my duty because of my fellow human beings, because of my country, my tribe, my clan, my squadron, my battalion, and the list goes on by whichever kind of group you want to put yourself into. Duty applies. And really, honor is this thing where it's really the opposite of shame, right? Honor is you've achieved what you were meant to do. You've achieved all that was required of you, and you should be honored for that. You put yourself second to the collective. Now, glory is sort of a step above all of that, and it's sort of all of these things at work underneath. It's all of these things that lead to a culminating of glory. And the ultimate glory is to die with honor. It is to die standing your ground and knowing that that's what you need to do. That is the appeal of going into war. That is the appeal that keeps you fighting to the death, knowing that if you die, there will be a glorification of you after death. And of course, there are warriors that even do such things, that they achieve a kind of glory without even dying. They go so much further beyond. Right? The hero that's in war and they kill hundreds and hundreds of people and they keep on fighting, right? That's the hero of the army. That's the hero of the clan. That's the person that's given all of the glory. And the feeling of fighting alongside them, well, then they rise to a moment of leadership, right? The barbarian in the tribe that has killed the most people and is the most savage gets the most glory. And the one with the most glory is the one that leads to leadership. Now, savagery and violence in the deep past was actually related to, it was undifferentiated from this thing of power, this thing of glory and power. And later, as history unfolded, well, that became more differentiated. And there was a distinction between violence and glory, and they were separated, right? And that's how you get the king at the back who hasn't fought anyone and would never even go close to the battleground, still being exalted, right? That's a historical phenomenon that occurs as collective dynamics unfolded, as certain values unfolded, and it's the interplay between honor, duty, guilt, shame. that allowed for that at different times throughout history. Now, as I said, when we first discussed this idea, when we first started bringing this idea into our understanding, this whole idea of glory is archaic. This is deep past history, pictures of glory and guilt and shame and all the rest of it. What we want to do here is actually go beyond that. We want to go beyond an emotional intelligence analysis. And we want to see that actually glory is power. Glory is the feeling of power. And the real empowerment from this dynamic, this phenomenon of duty, guilt, shame, is actually of transcending it. The power comes in bypassing the whole game, right? It is when you see that, you know what, this whole game of duty to my country and dying for my country, that's a stupid game, and I'm not going to have a bar of it. I'm not going to be involved. And in fact, the transcendence occurs not just to this archaic definition of glory. It comes to transcendence altogether. It comes from the transcendence of the emotional spectrum. And it's a feeling, it's a distinct feeling. It's a feeling of power, right? It's the feeling that no feeling can affect you. No feeling can hurt you. No feeling can cause you to go in a life direction or to behave in a certain way or to talk in a certain way or to have certain relationships or to pursue certain things or avoid certain things. There's no feeling that can do that, whether it's shame, guilt, duty, or honor, or anything else that we may find in the emotional spectrum. And it's ironic that it's a feeling, right? It's the feeling of empowerment. And in a sense, I'm using the word power in meaning empowerment. And that empowerment is the same thing as when you've killed 100 people on the battlefield, right? Can you just imagine that feeling? You've killed 100 people. How invincible you would feel. How much testosterone would be coming through you. And just like the blood and the violence, right? It's a very extreme feeling. Now, we have that in our history. We are humans. We still have testosterone within us. We still have violence within us. And this awareness allows us to integrate that and to have that feeling of immense power. And it's not necessarily just testosterone, right? That's just a sort of biological sketch. It's also the respiratory system. It's also strain. It's also cognitive ability, right? So the neural pathways also play into it. You can be intellectually empowered, and that goes along with this full bodily sensation of power. And it all comes back to glory. This really is the new vision of glory. It is understanding this archaic history that we've got and how it's related to the emotional spectrum and how it plays in on our lives. And how bringing awareness to this, just by discussing this, right? Just by hearing this idea, you can almost immediately say it for yourself. You can do it for yourself. Right? This feeling of violence that's within you, of aggression, is actually your power. And if you do it consciously, you use it for good, right? You use that aggression for creative things. You don't go out and kill people, right? That just doesn't happen anymore. And you don't even become aggressive to people. You actually become very peaceful towards people. That's how you really do become loving and kind and soft towards people, because you know your own aggression. And you know where to channel it and how to have it as a feeling of power, a feeling of glory unto yourself. And in higher value communities, we glorify the peaceful. The most glorious thing is someone who is soft, loving, compassionate, kind, open-hearted, all-encompassing, innocent. They embody these higher values and we glorify it. And they're empowered by their own feelings. They still have that empowerment. So that's a little bit about glory. That's a little bit about what it means to transcend this emotional spectrum and how a few of the little mechanics all play in. I'm hoping you can see that there's a lot of back and forth between all these things, and they are all connected. And of course, that continues on, this interconnectivity of all these ideas and also their independence does continue on. This section is another part of wisdom, and we will be talking more about wisdom as we go along, right? So it's wise to understand your past. It's wise to understand that there's a mechanism within you that plays upon your duty and your guilt and your shame and your honor. And it's really wise to know that glory and empowerment are related. And you can discover that through your own transcendence. So we'll continue on. When you're ready, we can jump on into the next talk.